Welcome to the show, folks. I'm your host, Joshua Christos. This is The Current Conversation. Thank you all for joining me today. We're going to have a great show today. Today's topic is, what does it mean to go all in for your dreams? And today we're going to discuss what does it mean when you say, I'm going full throttle all in for my dreams. This is what I'm ready to do. Nothing's going to turn me back. So if you're watching this and you've been, if you reach that point where you're saying, I'm going all in for my dreams, we want you to join us today, sharing the conversation. You can check over here in the comments section. There's a link that you can click, and that link will bring you right into the conversation. We encourage you to share your thoughts, your questions, your feedback. We want to hear from our viewing audience. What does it mean to go all in for your dreams? I'm going to be joined by several guests today who have made that decision to decide to take that leap of faith and go all in for their dreams. And it should be a good show. In the meantime, again, thank you all for watching. I want to encourage you guys to go over and register now at www.patreon.com/the current conversation and become a member supporter of the show. It really does help us out, helps us to do the show, continue the show, but also we have plans to do so much more beyond the show. I'm connecting folks with resources that they need, rather if it's, for your business, for your personal development, for your home life, your growth there. We have a lot of different professionals that join us from week to week, and we want to make sure that there's a way for those professionals to connect with our viewing audience and so on and forth. So make sure you go ahead and register now at www.patreon.com/the current conversation and join the conversation. So without further ado, we want to make sure that you guys enjoy the show, get a chance to text your friend, tell your neighbor. The current conversation is about to begin. Welcome back, folks. Thanks for joining me today on this lovely Thursday evening. We're live now, and today's topic is, what does it mean to go all in for your dreams? And so, what does that mean? What does that mean? A lot of folks say, I have a dream and I'm trying to pursue this thing, and I have a vision of this business I want to run. I've witnessed a lot of folks who have tried to start up businesses or have tried to, just kind of chase something that's inside of them, rather if it's a singing career, writing books, whatever that may be. But I deal primarily with folks who are doing businesses, starting businesses, because myself, I have several businesses, but one of those is a marketing company. We do marketing, graphic design, websites, and so on and forth. If you don't already know those things, television production, and so in encountering a lot of folks, I see there's some folks that really truly do go all in. There's nothing that's going to stop them. All they think about is winning. They do everything it takes to win. They press hard. They put everything they can into their business. And I see some folks who just think that one day it's going to magically happen, and they kind of stay at a certain plateau and never really getting past that plateau because they're just kind of looking for someone else to make their dream happen, or they're looking for some big windfall to make their dreams come true. And every now and then they might get a nice influx of cash, and they think, woohoo, I finally caught a break. Those things don't last. What lasts is passion and drive and continued focus on your vision. Those are things that you already possess. You don't need anybody else to give those things to you. Hopefully you have those now in starting your business. And so we're going to talk to some folks today that have, found that passion, have found that drive, has found that determination, and said, I want to go all in for this thing. I want to surround myself with folks who want to go all in for this thing. And I'm looking to make my dreams happen. Now, if you're watching this and you're one of those folks that decided you want to make your dreams happen, I want to make sure that you have a chance to join us. You can chat with us. Hey, darling, thanks for joining us. And you can chat with us in the comments, or you can join the conversation. Simply click on the link that's in the comments. We'll bring you right in through your cell phone, tablet, or PC webcam. You can share your experience. You can ask questions to my guests, or you can just, offer any type of feedback that you have. But without further ado, let's bring some of our guests on today. We have several that should be joining us today. First off, I just want to thank everybody for watching and thank my guests for attending me. One of my first guests I'm going to bring in, she is a filmmaker. She's been making films for quite a while now, and she has definitely went all in for her dream. Nothing has stopped her. I think she has, several years in the industry of making films. From what I've seen, her films look great. She's done a great job, and I hear there's a lot more coming down the pipeline. So without further ado, let's bring my first guest on, Miss Darla Ray. Darla Ray, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Josh. Do you go by Josh or Joshua?
Joshua is fine. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. And uh, yeah, I've been doing films a long time.
Yeah. So
Had
how,
my
how
own
long have you been
company.
doing films?
I've had my own production company for 22 years.
Wow.
But I started acting when I was 8 years old
Wow.
in Los Angeles in doing stage. And then
Mhm.
I made the transition from stage to film when I was 18. As an actor, I started actually as an extra on John Carpenter's Halloween because I really wanted to learn what happens on a movie set and
Yeah.
what are all the jobs that everybody did, you know, what they do. Like, what is that guy? Oh, he's the key dolly grip. So I took a different approach because, you know, my folks didn't, nobody in my family had an interest in this. And it was, oh, that's a pipe dream. You hear those kinds of statements made to you,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
you know, you can't let that deter what you want to do. And so I just found a different avenue to make it happen. And that was, I started as an extra and then said, oh, would you like to work in craft services? Would you like to work in props? Would you like to do these things? And so I exposed myself to the industry and the things within it that where I wanted to be.
I think that was really smart and very key too. In doing that, even as you started to move up the ladder to have more responsibility or take of a higher role, I guess, in the production, you would also know this is what is required of these other jobs. So when you get folks to partner with you, or when you're hiring folks, you know, I think a lot of folks miss these steps. For example, somebody says, "I want to start a business," and they automatically give themselves the title of CEO, but not understanding the really responsibility that comes with that title. And
Correct.
then they're trying to do CEO, but they're trying to do the accounting, and they're trying to do the marketing, trying to do all these things. They have no experience or education in any of those fields. And then they say somebody comes along that knows a little bit about one of those things, and they say, "Hey, why don't you help me? Because you know more than I do." But they don't know any way of checks and balances. So they give this person authority. I've seen this happen several times. They say, you have a charge of the money, and then next thing you know, this person's trying to steal the company,
Right.
stolen all the money, and they didn't know the CEO. Right, the CEO had no idea how that happened because they weren't aware of those roles. And I think
Right.
that as that role, you should have some experience in those fields. So I think that was a really wise decision to kind of go around and see what those jobs were and get familiar with that. So tell us about when did you start doing your own thing? When did you start chasing the dream and saying this is now time for me to make that initiative? I'm
Well,
going all in.
initially, I worked in a couple of film projects, but then I found myself a single mom. Didn't set out to be a single mom, but when you have a spouse that thinks what you do is dumb and stupid, and you're
Mhm.
like, okay, well, this is what I want to do. So I actually worked in aerospace manufacturing, in procurement and project management. So a lot of those skills translated over into what I needed to do in order to accomplish my own film projects.
Mhm.
I managed my own theater company, a dinner theater. So I was always adding something to where I wanted to go. And so I actually started my own film production company like in 1998 and somewhere around there. And I actually incorporated a couple years later. But there again, people said, well, why didn't you make a short film first? Well, because honestly, I felt like God put this story in my lap that was a feature length story. And I researched that for 12 years before I actually wrote the screenplay. And,
Wow.
my sister finally said to me, tell me again why you're not making that film. Well, I'm waiting on this person or that person. And she's like, well, I think you should just do it.
Yeah.
And so I did. I made a feature film, my first film. I never made a short.
Mm.
And it surprisingly did very well. I got distribution with my first film, won lots of awards at a lot of festivals around the world. And that opened doors for me. And
Wow.
then, it was about wheelchair rugby and those with spinal cord injuries. And it was a narrative. So I wrote the screenplay based on one of my pastor's son, their kid, had an accident where he broke his neck. And so um, that was the story I told. So then it was interesting that the next couple of film projects that came to me all had to do with some form of disability and or raising awareness. And so I had no problem becoming known as the filmmaker who raises awareness.
Yeah, I think that's key too. I think you were meeting a niche market that hasn't really been touched too much. You know, everybody wants to see superheroes leap high buildings and things, but that's not everybody's life. Some folks are in a wheelchair. Some folks are, having other difficulties in life, and unless you have a family member or you're in that, it's kind of something that you sweep under the rug. It just kind of gets overlooked, and it's like, oh, what happened to that guy or something? I know people personally who have children that were just born disabled or they were born some kind of way, and I watched
Right.
them go through life 30 years of raising this person who needed this care, and that's a real hero. They didn't jump buildings. They spent every day making sure that people
Exactly.
who couldn't do things. So that's great that you're giving that song for the unsung.
And it's interesting because every time I make a film, I get a new education. And I think, I don't know that everybody can say that when they make film.
Yeah,
um, because I'm always amazed at, like, oh my gosh, I had no idea it took somebody that long to get dressed in the morning who's in a wheelchair and they have a dog that assists them. I mean, yeah, I knew in the back of my mind, but I had never experienced it up front and watched it. And I thought, well, if there's more people like me, I can't be the only person on the planet that hasn't experienced this.
yeah,
And the beautiful thing with that film, I think, was I did not have the understanding that the ramifications it would have, an impact it would have to people's lives, until one time I was doing a Q&A at a college
hmm,
after the screening of that film, and this woman came up to me afterwards with a young man, probably about 20, 22 years old. And she said, "Oh, I just want to thank you for making this film. And I brought my nephew tonight." And I said, "Well, hey, I hope you like the film. Thanks for coming." And he said, "Well, it beats the alternative." And I thought, ooh, I don't know if I want to go down that route.
yeah.
But ultimately, I said, "Well, how so?" And he said, "Well, if my aunt had not brought me here tonight, literally drugged me here, I was going to go home and commit suicide."
Dang.
And he said, "But your film showed me that my life is not over, it's just different." And that young man went on to be in the Paralympics years later. And so I always tell people when they ask me, well, did you get rich and famous from your films? What kind of money are you making? It's not always about the money
Yeah.
to be successful. Success can be measured in numerous ways. And for me, it's about the impact and how it can help others.
And that sounds like a good core place to begin is, what's your motivation, right? And your motivation is to help others. And I think that's a great motivation because you're going to see that even if it's just helping somebody get their start in film or somebody to get like how you were watching all these roles to really you knew you wanted to create films, but you wanted to get these things and maybe picking them out or just telling somebody's story who their story never gets told. So I think that's really great. What would you say to folks that are watching and they say, I have ideas for a book or a movie or I want to write some plays or something, or just whatever they're doing that's kind of been holding them back. Like you said, you waited 12 years before you kind of jumped in and made that first film. What would you say to that person, or even yourself, that you at that age now, if you could go back to that person and say, hey, don't wait 12 years, just do it. What would you say?
I would say, yeah, jump in. You have to be all in. And, until you write it down and you have a visible plan written down in front of you, it's just an idea.
Yeah,
And everybody has ideas rolling around in their head. So, you have to take that first initial step. And, I'm no different. And there are times where after you've had a few successes and then there's a lull and nothing's really, you know, tugging on my heartstring. I used to try to force things, and I don't force it in the way of, oh, I got to turn out a project right away. I want the right project that's going to do the right thing for the right situation and or individuals. And so I make sure that I really look at all of those components before I sit down and write out the plan.
I think that's great advice. Folks need to write the vision and make it plain. Get something ideas. I said when you put it out in front of you, when you put the vision out in front of you, it's easier to see. And that's what you got to do. A vision should be something that's in front of you. When you see something down the
Right.
road, it's in front of you. You should take it out of your mind and put it on paper so it's now in front of you. Now it's ready for something you to move towards and make that connection to. I think that's great
That's
advice.
where the polishing happens, you know?
Yeah.
You write it down and then you go, oh, let me move. It's like playing chess. Oh, no, I need to move this piece over here and this piece needs to come over here. And so you don't get the cart before the horse, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I did a feature film called Spirit of Love, the Mike Glenn story. And Mike Glenn is a retired NBA legend. And he grew up in segregated South. Uh, and his parents were both educators.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, back in the days when nobody wanted black teachers, the Georgia School for the Deaf allowed them to be teachers, and so as a result, when Mike grew up, he grew up around the deaf and hard of hearing community because his dad was the coach and a math teacher, and his mother was a teacher at that school. So all of his friends were deaf and hard of hearing. And he determined he was very sad when he found out that none of those friends could go with him to basketball camp. And so what he did was he made the statement, when I make it to the pros, he made that proclamation, when I make it to the pros, I will start a basketball camp for deaf and hard of hearing kids so my friends and people like them can have the same experience that I did.
Wow.
And so when that story was brought to me, I did not know who he was. So
Yeah.
I went and spent time with him in his basketball camp and researched him, and he's a very humble man. And he's done some incredible things. Some kids that have gone through his camps have gone on to D1 colleges playing basketball. They got scholarships they would have never received had they
These are
not
deaf
had that
children, though, right?
opportunity.
Correct. These are all deaf
That is
children.
correct.
Wow.
Mhm. They all
Wow.
have hearing loss to some degree. Some are, have cochlear implants. Some use hearing aids.
Yeah.
Some don't hear at all. But it was again an education in a lot of ways. And that film did very well. And matter of fact, we're working on a deal for distribution on it again because of the current climate with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And this is a great example of what this humble man has done for so many people.
Yeah.
And who knows what those kids have gone on to be in
Yeah. That's
40
really
years of
awesome
those
stuff.
basketball camps.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are great stories that I think people need to want to see, and it's great stories that need to be told. Darla, stick with us. We're going to take a quick second break, and we're going to bring some more folks in. Stick with us. I'm sure we'll have some
Okay.
more questions for you, or piggyback on some of our other guest answers. So, folks, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a short second. All right, folks. As you know, I'm your host, Joshua Christos. Today, joining me is my guest, Darla Ray of Darla Ray Films. She's been a filmmaker for quite some time. Today, we're talking about what does it mean to go all in for your dreams, and we want to hear from you, our viewing audience. What you have experienced in going in for your dreams, or what is it that's holding you back from going all in from your dreams? What's that thing that might be stopping you? We're gonna have quite a few guests today. I'm gonna bring in somebody who's no stranger to the show. She's been here quite a couple of times, and she doesn't know, but she's one of my personal heroes. I love her so much. Please welcome to my show, Miss Ruth Bryant White, Dr. Ruth Bryant White. Oh, every time I bring her in, she freezes. My goodness, here she comes,
Oh goodness.
spinning. And those that may not know, she is the founder of Breaking News Journal Television, and she is trying to change folks' lives by giving them cleaner content to watch, and folks like Darla who are making content a safe place to put their stuff, where they know that they're going to get in front of the right audience, and they're going to be able to. Nobody's going to try to take over their stuff, and they're going to get the right support that they need. And we'll try to bring her back if she gets caught up. Sometimes her internet kind of does this thing. In the meantime, we have another guest waiting backstage. Uh, this is a good friend of mine as well. Uh, she has her name as her TV show, but she's the host of the show, Miss Desta Keith. Desta Keith, how you doing, ma'am? Can you hear me, Desta? Desta, you're on the air, Desta. Desta, her show. Can you hear me? I don't think her volume is up. Hi, Desta. Okay, well, let's try to bring her back too in a little bit. Let's go on to John. John, hey, John, how you doing, brother?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Hello, Darla.
So
Hey,
we're talking
John,
today
how are
about.
you?
It's been a long time since you and I have been together.
Yeah, that's true.
Last time I talked to you, we talked about making a movie where I was going to be a German officer.
Yeah, we're still trying to get that one funded.
Okay, well, I'm
That's a
always
$2 million
available to work
budget.
on my accent right now.
There you go. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Ah, ich spreche kleiner Deutsch.
So John, so tell me about what does it mean for you to go all in for your dreams? What's this dream that you're chasing down? And let's share with our guests what that is and what it means to you.
Well, look, I was very lucky. I had my own show on Discovery Channel, and I decided to not continue with that and go to pay-per-view, even if that took me 20 years. And so who knows where I am in that process right now. It's a difficult assignment. I'm not a film school graduate, but I play really hard for my background education, and I'm always looking for opportunities. I pay attention to people like Darla Ray because she's a professional who's actually done this. But what my dream, of course, would be to be back on broadcast again with my own show. It's called the American Car Prospector. And yes, I did get my copyrights.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. So are you, I don't think I've ever seen the show. Tell me a little bit about your show. Is it that you're looking at old vehicles? Are you restoring them? Or tell me about that.
Right. My character is a cowboy who roams around finding old cars in barns and telling stories. And I do everything in one take. I write my own material. It's just me being me, really. I had no previous experience. And when the film crew came from Oregon, they were connected with the Gold Rush Alaska show, which was the most popular cable show in the world at that time. They were from Oregon, and they came out to Denver and put a lav mic on me and said, "What are we doing today?" And the next thing we did was part of a series that went all over the world on hundreds of millions of receivers. So I was very, very lucky.
So, pursuing this before you got the show, before any of that stuff happened, when you were just like an average Joe, just thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And I think everybody, when we hit that 17, 18, 19 years of age, we're like, okay, it's getting to be real. What is it that I want to do? And then when those infinite possibilities happen, no parents' rules, you get to go out and live life. It kind of hits you like, okay, I got to kind of settle. Or maybe you had a vision even before then, but in that time, what was it like to have that vision? And then how did you go to say, you know what, I'm going to make this thing happen?
Well, for me, it was like being shot out of a cannon because it all came together so fast.
Wow.
What I had to have, though, was I had to trust myself to be able to make decisions without lots of delays and getting involved in lengthy conversations about what to do and just do it. I was very lucky. I had some investor support that came right away, and everything worked out really well. Actually, it was the greatest adventure of my life. But the business side of it was pretty toxic, really. And in fact, I wouldn't be willing to be a Discovery Channel show host anymore, which is pretty rare to hear someone say that. But I've changed my career 3 times in a major way, and my education that I got. Formal education was pretty much out of date within just a few years of when I graduated. So, critical thinking skills and being able to have executive function where I could make decisions that were good and stick with them. That's all I ever really did. And it's led me to some pretty amazing things. And it is fun to be me, by the way.
Yeah, Darla, I see you shaking your head. Yes. Tell me what you're thinking as he's talking. I can see you kind of in agreement.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't go to film school, but my other skills just played over into what I want to do. And the whole thing it is a toxic industry. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's toxic. good, the bad, the ugly, and there's more ugly than there is the good. So, you have to, and I always tell, like, I mentor a lot of people, young and old. You have to know where that line is that you're going to draw in the sand, and you're not going to cross it. And I think that's key, to your individual success, the quality of what you do. And like, John said, he got his copyrights back. That's a big key for him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Congratulations on that, buddy.
Well, but what's different about my situation is that I'm an old cowboy on TV. All I have to do to win now is be the last man standing, right? Because I can work literally for 50 years. And in fact, I intend to die on set. I mean, that's the goal is they'll go, oh my God, he died, well, that's all right. We'll fix it in post, So that's what's going on with me is, I had a career path there that turned out to just be me on camera. And I can do that when I'm 90, 100 years old. And in fact, I intend to. So, you can't really gauge me like a conventional actor, Richard Rollins is the other car show host that everybody has always heard of. And look, when Richard Rollins has a huge beer gut and no one pays any attention to him, I'll still be working. And so that's the key to understanding me, is that I was a long-term player from the moment that I got the phone call. I played to win, but I played long term, and I may yet go to film school. I wouldn't be surprised I'll get to that. There's a lot of learning ahead of me. The main thing, of course, too, is that I have work that I really enjoy, and that is a tremendous learning opportunity for me and something completely different than my previous careers. And, I'm really engaged in it, and I love it, to be honest. It's really fun to be me, to go to places and meet people that recognize me from TV, and they all want to know the same thing, though. It's, when are you going to produce again? And so I think a Patreon account, is one of the things that I need to learn about how it works. And there's probably some other things I need to do in that area so that I could maybe have my own production at some point,
I think you guys said some really good things too. One was what you just said, John, that you're interested in learning. There's still more to learn. I think that any person that's going off and chasing a dream, they have to understand, I don't know everything. No matter if you've been in it 10, 20, 30 years, there's still going to be something new around the corner. So be excited for that learning experience. And I think another thing you guys said that was really good too was, Darla, you said setting a line for yourself, knowing how far you're going, not to cross. Some folks might go all in and think that really means all in. So I'll leverage my house to get more money. I'll do these things. It's like you have to have a line to say, okay, I'm going to go this far. And if it's not working out, then I'm going to regroup, maybe get some different education, maybe bring some different folks on board, but have a strategy for that to say, I want to chase this thing down, but I'm not willing to lose everything I have for it. Give me 1 second, guys. We're going to take a quick break and bring some more folks in. I see that the folks are back in the green room waiting. Thank you both for staying on the show. Continue staying. Sure. And we'll be right back, folks. Did you guys watching? In the meantime, I want to encourage everybody who's watching to go over to patreon.com/the current conversation and register as a member supporter. We definitely appreciate that. Helps us do a lot of things with the show, helps us to continue to grow the show and develop it and do it every week, So register now at www.patreon.com/the current conversation. And we'll be back after this brief message. Thanks for staying with us. Welcome back to the show, folks. Thanks for joining us. As you know, I'm your host, Joshua Christos. Joining me today is Darla Ray Films, and my brother John here. He used to do a TV show you might know, the Great American Prospector. And if you're a fan, please join in and chime in on the comments. Tell John how much you appreciated his show. And if you've seen any of Darla Ray's film, join in and tell her how much you appreciate what she's doing. And
yeah, just FYI, my company is actually Film It Productions. So some people might know the production company as opposed to it does Darla Ray Films. So just so you know.
So we're gonna try again to bring in some of our guests backstage. Let's start with her TV show. Can you hear me now, Desta? Oh, I can. We can't hear you. I think your mic is muted. Can you hear me? Yeah, it says your mic is muted. Okay. And let's try to bring on Dr. Ruth. Are you available? Can you hear us, Dr. Ruth? You know what? I see you got two different devices up. Try to close one down. Maybe that's why you're not there we go.
There we go.
All right, we're just gonna leave her there. She comes in, and we're just gonna bring her in. So, as we were talking before the break, so something that you guys might not know, I know the experience of doing television and things. I had a television network for a while, similar to Breaking News Journal. It was just a Christian network. We only had Christian content on there. So I know those pains of trying to get funding and trying to get things together. We were also trying to develop TV shows and some films, and I was kind of like you, Darla, where I had all these films that were in my mind, and even half scripts. I have some of the front, some of the back, missing the middle, things like that. And I was always waiting for something else. I was waiting for the proper funding. I had this particular actor in mind or something like that because I knew how I wanted to tell that story. And like you said, sometimes you just got to go with it. And my decision was to sacrifice the one I liked the least, so to speak, and said, let me do that and kind of use that as my low budget film and maybe get some money from that to go and produce these other ones and do it justice. Finding a solution to try to chase that dream down. Tell me about some of the things that you did in your career of building this dream that you might have had to sacrifice this thing or do these things or not do it to the best of what you wanted it to be just to get it done.
Sure. Yeah. One of the things I learned early on though was I wrote my first screenplay of the film that I directed and produced, The Goal, and I had $50,000. I put the $50,000 in it. Was it a long shot? Yes, but it paid off, and I made 3 times the amount back, and it was a success story. Would I have liked to have made it a bigger budget? Yes, of course, but sometimes it's the stepping stone, and that got distribution right away. And what I've learned is that sometimes, depending on what the project is, I've learned to write them in a way that if I get the big dollars, I can produce it the grandiose way. And if I get the smaller dollars, I can still make an impact and make a successful film project. So I don't necessarily lock myself into a specific dollar amount. People ask me all the time, funders, well, how much? I think you should make that for $5 million. And I say, well, why should I do $5 million on one film when I could spread $5 million across 5 films? And it always stops them dead in their track, because they're like, oh, I never thought of it like that. And so, I always have to be prepared to think outside the box. And that's what you have to do as an independent filmmaker. When I made Spirit of Love, I knew that I had deaf and hard of hearing kids, and there was a story component there. I have a nephew who wears hearing aids, and he was telling me one day about his great new Lamborghini hearing aids because they cost so much. He called them the Lamborghini hearing aids. So I said, who makes them? And he goes, I don't know. I said, well, go look at the box. And so he gave me the name of the company, and I contacted them and said, here's what I want to do. Here's my sheet of what it would cost for a product placement, and they came in right away. And then the next day, their parent company came in and asked me for a different dollar amount, and I didn't have that different dollar amount. I just made it up on the spot because I thought I'll go with it. If
Yeah.
it's going to get us across the finish line. And so I've always learned to just don't shut out things that aren't what you have locked in your brain, because it may just catapult you to cross the finish line.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. You got to be open to, what's really happening. Sometimes we try to paint the picture, but in my experience, I know God has a different paintbrush, and He uses
Absolutely.
different colors, and so we got to allow for that vision to come forward, and it transcends what we thought that seed was. We look at a seed and we just see the seed. We until that thing grows, we would never know that there's a tree in there and an apple inside of there, and but God knew all along. Dr. Ruth, we got you on the line. Are you able to? So she froze again. Can you hear us, Desta?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Oh
me?
wow! Welcome to the show.
Yay.
Yay! Thank you, Joshua. We had a great day filming her TV show in Washington, D.C. It was such
Yes,
an
we did.
honor. Yes.
Yeah, we spent the day today capturing some of the events in DC. The
Okay.
RGB memorial they had in front of the Senate, or I'm sorry, the Supreme Court, and there's a lot of protests going on in the Capitol today. We kind of went down there, and she made me dust off my director's hat and my yeah.
I'm
But
sure
so
that was exciting, though, to be down there. Historical, anyhow.
It was very memorable, and at the same time, it was very serious. And
Sobering, sure.
yes, and I think one of the most, because I'm a former flight attendant, United Airlines, 25 years, our first stop was American Airlines, and the CWA workers were out there protesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I got them in a rally and said, "Hey, I was CWA." And so I heard what they had to say. They were based out of New York. And then they were going to be meeting with a congressman. And so I wanted to capture that on tape. We got it. I made some mistakes,
yeah, we
but
did.
Dr. Ruth likes that did that mistake, so that's good.
So tell us really quickly, Desta. So your TV show is called Her TV, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're going to be bringing folks content. Tell the folks a little bit about what your content is, but also tell us, how did you come up with that dream? You said you used to be a flight attendant. This is far from being a flight attendant. How do you shift from this all the way to this extreme? And what's it like to chase that dream down?
It's that woman right there, Dr. Ruth.
Dr. Ruth.
Thank you, Dr. Ruth, for well,
Thank you, Dr. Ruth.
Yay.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hey, she came alive.
What is going on?
Well, today we were in Washington, D.C. Just so the others know a little bit about me. This was our second day in D.C., so this was a wonderful learning curve. Basically, I'm a former banker, and then I was in human resources, bank teller, became a pilot, and then I became a flight attendant for 25 years. Retired due to an injury, came back as a White House press correspondent with electladyproductions.com, ELP News out of Florida. And we got lucky enough to cover President Barack Obama, who was there campaigning for Hillary Clinton, the I'm With Her campaign. And it was an amazing opportunity. It was...
So you caught the bug. You got a little taste of the journalism and caught the bug, and you said, "I got to keep doing this, huh?"
Yeah, I took a break for a little while, and then we did a lot of stuff here in Washington, D.C. with ELP News, and then I joined IPA, International Press Association, so I could do fashion.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and
Yeah.
we did my own co-hosted a talk show called Social Perspectives in Orlando, Florida. And then I decided to branch out with Dr. Ruth, and we got the wonderful opportunity to go to the we went to the Oscars, and we went to 4 different after carpet red red carpet parties, and it was amazing and challenging to say the least, but it was so rewarding to see the arts and the film, how they help produce documentaries and true stories, and how to get a message across faster and quicker. And hopefully we'll be able to follow up with
Must be a good show. Everybody's on there.
Yeah. So the Oscars was amazing. Thanks to Dr. Ruth. We were building content, and I do want to go back to one thing today, and that's when I was with the airlines, with American Airlines today, walking with them in the protests in the streets. One of the women, I asked, does anybody sing Dr. Ruth, everyone? And they did. The organizer, she sang Amazing Grace. Amazing.
Yeah, it was really good. And they're going to be able to see that on your TV, on your show here soon, right?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so I think one thing that maybe the viewers might not know is that all of you guys, I guess, are going to be on Breaking News Journal Television. Is that correct? Your content will be available for folks to watch there?
Yes, that's a plan. The Clean TV Revolution. See?
The Clean TV Revolution. So here's a question for the whole group. So part of being able to chase down your dream is that it's kind of hard to run that race alone. You're going to get tired. You're going to get worn out. And so you're going to need a team. So in choosing that team wisely, what made you guys say, hey, I mean, looking around on this board, I see a lot of people with a lot of talent, a lot of vision. What says this team right here is strong, or any team that you pick? What are some of those key things that says, here's what I'm looking for in a team so that I can make it to that next level that's going to help me chase my dream? For the folks that's watching, that's sitting there saying, well, I've had a dream for 20 years and they're sitting on the couch and haven't never taken a step towards that. What would you say in building a team, and particularly this team here?
I think you have to surround yourself with people that are proactive, and they're dreamers, and they are not afraid to hit the wall and then, oh, I need to turn to the right. Let me turn to the right. Oh, wait, I hit another wall there. They're not afraid to overcome that and to learn something from it. Like I said earlier, every time I make a new film, I get a new education. And that may be technical education on the backside of filmmaking, or it may just be an education in life lessons that I had no idea individuals go through. And so I think we are all stronger together, and that in itself is a success story, especially in this day and age.
Yeah. John, what about you? What did you say about the keys of having a good team, and maybe even emphasizing, how did you become a part of this team? What made you choose this team as the next place for you to launch what you're doing, or just your experience with teams in the past?
Was that for me?
Yes, John.
Oh, well, I think actually that's been the issue for me, is that, not very many people in the Colorado marketplace have more experience than I do now. I mean, Darla, for example, definitely does. And that's why I said earlier, I follow her online and I watch what she's doing and I watch what she's posting and thinking about. And when I can see her in person, I always do that. But it's tough to put together a team to do TV in Colorado. I mean, there's a strong pressure on me all the time to go to Atlanta, or Los Angeles. And, I'm a Colorado native, and I may eventually have to do that. I may have to relocate to do what I want to do. Again, I'm kind of lucky because the way my retirement check works and everything, if I don't go back to work until I'm 66 in about 17 months, I'm okay with that. I have a lot of learning to do, and it's tough to get things done in my business right now anyway. So that's part of the issue. If you're in Colorado and you want to make TV, it's going to be tough to put together a team just geographically for me. What works is if you have some really brilliant people with dark hair that are involved, because the senior citizen, spot is all filled on my production team. That's only one spot, and so I'm looking for people that want to work longer than I will, and that's the key to understanding what I want to do. Is I do need to put together a team, and I've had pretty marginal success doing that.
Yeah.
It's a frustration.
Well, I think I'd like to tag onto that because, I'm actually the president of Women in Film and Media Colorado, and we just had a call earlier with our advisory council discussing opportunities for in Colorado, because, and I don't mean this disrespectful, but there are those of us that have been doing this a long time, and people have a tendency to ageism is a thing. And if you can't surround yourself with people that are younger and bring something else to the table, then you probably should not be in the business anymore, because we all can learn something. But I would not jump the fence or the state line and leave Colorado, because knowing what I know about the Atlanta market, it's very difficult unless you're the big cheese down there. Uh, Studios, Tyler Perry included, to be able to crew up for a production. That's why I specifically did not shoot Spirit of Love in Georgia, and it's a Georgia story. Shot it in Colorado because I could crew it in Colorado. And I didn't have to compete with the big productions in Georgia.
Yeah, I would have to just add to that really quickly too about Atlanta. In my experience, the things that the crew that you get are the ones that just kind of don't really have a lot of experience or something like that. It's challenging. And if you're trying to do something big, yeah, Tyler's, well, not just him, but folks are getting those.
Everybody's down there. Everybody's down there in Georgia, or New Mexico, because Netflix did their thing in New Mexico. But there's a lot of things that are, COVID has caused people to kind of reset some things. And I think we're going to be surprised at the openings for content, as well as openings for opportunities for people to crew up.
One thing I do want to point out too for the viewers is that, you guys have been chasing these dreams for a while. And that's what really makes it a real thing, is that it's never, it's gonna, like he said, I want to die on stage. I want to die in front of the camera. I want to die on set. It's who you are. It's a part of you. It's not something that you're like, well, this sounds cool. Because if it just sounds cool, in 10 years, it's not going to sound cool. And there's going to be all types of things that's going to come and try to deter you. So if you're watching this and you're trying to determine what is that dream I want to chase, or what is the thing that you want to do, and you got 3 or 4 different things in mind, it's got to be the thing that really just kind of gnaws at you day and night, that you wake up thinking about. It's got to really be an extension of who you are, a part of what what makes your existence what it is, so you can have the longevity to be. He said he'll be 66 in a couple weeks or a couple months. That's a lifetime of this adventure. And so for the 20 somethings that might watch this or watch it later, think about that. The 30 somethings, when you're pushing that dream, when you've been at that job for 10 years that you went to school for, and you say, this isn't really me, and you start finding that niche and scratching that itch, find that thing that's going to push you this long. How about you, Desta? What do you think about the question? What you building your team, what does it mean to have a good team or a strong team, and why this team? How do you feel like this is the team? You said, thank you, Dr. Ruth, and we got Darla and John and other folks that didn't make it tonight, but they're all working together to push this same goal and vision. Talk about that for a second, Desta.
Yeah, I'm going to start with one of my favorite New York Times bestseller, Betty Eady, called "Embraced by the Light," and she talked about her near-death experience, and it's yeah, and it's been something that I've carried around for a very long time, over 20 plus years. And now, thanks to the Kardashians, they're finally making it into a movie. And I'm so tickled pink. She's actually on Facebook, and she's a wonderful woman. And then I happened to meet Dr. PMH Atwater, who's the world's leading expert on near-death experiences. And I became a member, as I have my own. And it was amazing. She studied over 5,000 case studies of near-death experiences. You can look her up, and it's called the Big Book of Encyclopedia, and over 43 years of research. And she's addressed the United Nations,
Hmm.
which is, an accomplishment. And the way I met her was a true story all in itself, and how God has lined things up for me. Because when I won't speak too soon as to give a spoiler away, but this film is in my head, but Betty Eadie needs to take the lead, because this film is already in production thanks to the Kardashians, and it should have been made into a movie a long time ago. The I really like, I'm studying directing right now with Roderick Giles in New York City, who's been in the film industry for 19 years. And he's studied with some of the best directors. He actually started out as a social worker, took a camera class, loved it, and then started volunteering his time for different directors, and finally worked even up to Spike Lee and so much. And I'm just thrilled that he's my friend and mentor as well, as is Joshua and so many others. It's it's not an impossible journey, but for people to understand that God is not dead, that He's with us, He speaks to us, and we make mistakes. But if you read Betty Eadie's book, you'll understand more. And Dr. PMH Atwater has written so many books, and it's really funny. Hope Dr. Ruth doesn't get upset. I'm sure she won't. But when we were at the Oscars, Dr. PMH Atwater wrote this wonderful book, and we all put our hands on it as a blessing to God. And Dr. Atwater just came out with a book called The Butterfly People. And she says when children go to God, or they're sick, or they have cancer, that they actually call them the butterfly people.
Hmm.
They don't know how to describe that they are surrounded by angels, and they're spirit guides. And all of these amazing people I've met, especially in the past 7 years, have been amazing guides. And Dr. Ruth, what really takes to build a dream is thinking out of the box, like you said, but having a team that really works together effectively, that's calm,
Yeah.
that's, there there's no ego trips. There's no, yeah, I mean, everybody's important. Everybody has something to say. But Dr. Ruth has just helped me on my journey today as my TV production. She gave me questions to ask some people as breaking news was happening all over the
Just a great
Washington.
support system. Yeah, absolutely.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know how she did it. I wish she'd run for the presidency.
I would say that what I'm hearing consistently across the board is that uh, when everybody has the same vision, when everybody has the same kind of direction of what they're going in, it's easy to walk together, right? There's a scripture that says, "How can two walk together unless they agree?" And I see that everybody here agrees that they want to just produce quality content that really is a resemblance of who they are inside. And none of it, I've heard nobody talk about, I want to make shoot 'em up movies, or let's talk about how you know these gangsters are doing this and that. Everybody's trying to do something that's either educational, it's enriching in your mind, your body, your spirit, and that's really the key here. And I think that's what's going to make this whole thing come to life. B&J TV, Breaking News Journal, it's going to make it work because everybody's chasing the same thing. They're going in the same direction, and as long as you guys continue to say, "Hey, let's hold hands together," your your journey is my journey. When I make something like you talked about, John, you and Darla were talking about getting you a role in something that she was doing. That's where it's at. We have to really come together as a team, check on each other, make sure everything is going out together. We're I know Dr. Ruth was talking about this huge marketing thing she's trying to get together, and that push is not Breaking News Journal. It's her TV. That is American Car. I'm sorry, Picker. Is that what it is? American Car Picker. I'm sorry.
Prospector.
Prospector. Sorry, I knew it was something like that. My apologies. But yeah, I can see how this thing is going to work. It's a shame that we didn't get Dr. Ruth to come in and kind of say more. We got about 5 minutes left. In that time, I want to give you guys a chance to share anything that you want with our viewers. Let them know when your shows are available, where they're available, how they can watch it, and just give them more information on how they can get connected, websites or whatever that is. John, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so the American Car Prospector is on Revn TV, REVN. This is a Chattanooga-based all-car TV channel that bought the first series from Discovery Channel, and they're re-airing it now on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So on Mountain Time, it's on 6 o'clock on Mountain Time Wednesdays and noon on Mountain Time on Saturdays. But anyway, if you go to REVN.com, RevnTV.com, you can find the schedule and you can watch the Car Prospector. We'll be back with another series. It's a car show and it's really fun, and I'm still learning, and I really appreciate the support of people like Dr. Ruth and even Darla has been very helpful, and I do appreciate that. I also want to point out that anytime that you're doing something really difficult and long term, you're going to have people that are going to be close to you and that really have no reason to, but they won't support you, or they'll do things to let you know that they don't believe that you're working on it. You have to be able to look past that and keep working. Emotionally, though, that's really been hard at times for me, where, you know, people that I trusted and loved and probably really should have been able to support what I was doing, for whatever reason wouldn't, and that was tough. But then there's other people like Dr. Ruth, who just showed up and started doing cool stuff for me. What an amazing adventure. And for everybody that watches me on TV, thank you.
That's awesome. And I think what you said was really good too. That's a real key, that you might find that sometimes the closest people to us kind of put the least involvement into us. And, you know, we have to learn to just keep going forward and keep pressing in. And sometimes it's the person you just meet today that falls in love with what you're doing and says, hey, I'm your biggest fan. I want to support you all the way. And those things will line up. Those things will happen. I think, you know, we have to be prepared and be strong enough to say, hey, I know we're friends. I know we're family. We, you know, have a long journey, but this page, these pages of my story, this chapter of my life, you're not in this script, and that's okay. You know, you'll come back again, or what we had was okay, and keep pressing on. That your vision has to be stronger than that. Just really quickly before we close out. Is there anything you want to share with folks, how they can see your content, where it's going to be available, when it's going to be available, what can they expect when they watch?
Yes, sir. So we'll be bringing no fake news to our show. It will be clean, hopefully, and well, it will. We are in the process right now of loading the content, thanks to Joshua, and building our website. We'll be starting off our show with Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She'll be the lead off on our show, as this today was a memorable moment for women's movement. I do want to mention, you'll see that on our show, so that's a preview. I do want to mention the relationship really quickly, and this will be another further show. Do you remember the book The Hot Zone? Anybody? About the Ebola breakout that happened twice in Reston, Virginia.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, The Hot Zone. It was a New York Times bestseller.
Right.
Some similarities right now with COVID, or this pandemic. But I want to do something. In the Bible, it says to do something, and it says, how can we do this? But it's in the scriptures. And why aren't we doing more? Well, you can see a preview of my work on YouTube. You can see electladyproductions.com or /ELP news/Senator Harris. You can also see ELP News on YouTube /COVID-19. So we were at the heart of part of the breakout. You'll see my first official broadcast that was really arranged appropriately. And I did that with my videographer, Jennifer Jones, who did the Oscars footage for us. And having said that, I will say that our website is being built as we speak. And we are leaving it in Joshua's hands right now to load our shows. And we also, one more final mention is that we actually had a judge, not a judge, but a lawyer on the street, a Black African American lawyer who gave us the most, and a tribal lawyer, gave us a history lesson and remarks that were kind of unbelievable that I
Yeah, for civil liberties, he was focused on civil liberties and things, and I think that was key at this time with Black Lives Matters and all these things that's going on, and even just recently today, the Breonna Taylor thing.
mm-hmm.
He kind of really did share some really powerful insights on things, and a lot of things that folks don't know, like their rights that they have, and things that they should be checking out. And I can't wait for folks to see that. I think it was definitely informational. Um, we got to wrap up, but I want to thank you guys for joining me today, and we look forward to seeing you guys doing so much more stuff. And you guys are welcome back anytime if you ever want to just drop by and say hi or talk about more stuff what you're doing. And thank you guys so much for joining us. This is almost the end of our show, folks. And we want to make sure that you guys know that we're going to be here every Thursday at 8 o'clock. So continue to tap in and join in and tell your friends that we're doing stuff live, and we're here to help to share positive stuff, share things that should help promote the kingdom, but promote the community, help folks to just kind of be more assertive, more bold, more courageous to do things in their life, and come out of places where they might have been, or just be encouraged to do great things, because greatness is inside of us all. We all have the potential to do great things, and today is no different. Our topic was, what does it mean to go all in for your dreams? Hopefully you've found something from the guests that we've had today to just kind of empower you, and maybe share some knowledge or insight that just gives you that little burst you need to say, hey, I can do it too. Before we wrap up, folks, I want to just encourage you guys to register now at www.patreon.com/the current conversation. Become a member supporter of the show. It really helps the show out. Plus, you get some cool stuff. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do outside of the show that only members have access to. So you want to make sure you tap into that. Just check out the page and see if there's anything that interests you. And if so, definitely support us and be a member supporter. Until next week, thank you all again for joining me. And this has been the current conversation. Keep it here. We'll see you next Thursday at 8 o'clock.